So now this section 2, 8 to 40, which is Narada's instructions in response to Vyasadeva, who has submitted as a disciple. Now Narada very systematically he covers the points, keeping devotional service as the central theme. Basically, if you remember in previous chapter, in 31st verse, that is 1:4:31, Vyasadeva himself had an introspection when maybe he did not point out devotional service very distinctly, which is very dear to the perfect beings and the infallible Lord. So now, picking up that, Narada Muni will start highlighting this from various perspectives. First thing what he does is, Narada Muni, the first point is points out the mistakes of Vyasadeva. And these mistakes are pointed out in text number 8, 9, 14 and 15. What does he say in 8th? In the 8th he says that you have not broadcast the glories of the Supreme Lord. Not broadcast sublime and spotless glories. Very interesting. Sublime and spotless. So the glories, Bhagavatam itself, Bhagavatam is called a spotless Puran, and he's telling sublime and sublime, highly purifying glories, which can purify all material desires, all material contamination, and take one to the supreme transcendental, most pure state of Krishna consciousness. And then he says, you have more emphasized on so first of all, pure bhakti is not fully emphasized. Now instead of that, he has more emphasized on 4 principles of religious life, which are dharma, artha, kam and moksha. Dharma, artha, kam and moksha. And then in the 14th he says, thus you have given a description different from the vision of Lord. It will just agitate the mind. Lord basically wants to distribute pure devotional service. But your vision, you try to give things in a very, very diluted and compromised way. So basically, your vision is not in line with the vision of the Lord. And then 15th he says, therefore your spirit is compromising. Very interesting word. Jugupsitam. When one compromises the real principles, thinking that one will not be able to digest it. Compromising in the name of religion. Compromising spirit. So there is no concept of compromising. That is rejected by Narada Muni. Now after he says this is compromising spirit. Jugupsitam dharma krite. In the name of religion you have promoted the enjoying spirit, compromised. Now after pointing out the mistake, what does he say? Since you have not sufficiently glorified devotional service, not sufficiently glorified, therefore then he says actually there are 2 kinds of literatures. When we have 2 kinds of literatures, one kind of literatures are those which do not glorify devotional service, and one kind of literatures are those which only talk about devotional service. This can create revolution in the hearts of people. Very purifying. Impious lives can be changed, transformed. And these are pilgrimage of crows. After rejecting these kind of literatures and telling the literatures about devotional service are revolutionary, even if imperfectly composed, then in the third he says, he points out, so this is text number 10 and 11. Then he points out specifically, distinctly, glories of pure devotional service. Very distinctly he brings this point out. And how does he do that? Let us see in which verses. In text number 8, text number 12 and text number 17 till 20, 17, 18, 19, 20 and 22. He distinctly brings out the glories of pure devotional service. And then after doing that, after bringing out distinctly the glories of devotional service, then he glorifies the qualifications. So this is the third and the fourth. He says qualification of Narad Muni, or sorry, qualification of Vyasadev. Because once you tell it is so glorious, somebody may say, oh, I am not qualified, this is very high. Narad Muni says, actually you are qualified to distinctly bring out these glories. It is not so difficult for you. You can easily do that. To glorify Supreme Personality of Godhead and to glorify devotional service. Vyasadev is qualified and his qualities are mentioned in text 13 and text 21. And after doing that, once the glories of devotional service and glories of Vyasadev are declared, then Narad Muni, in the fifth point, Narad Muni highlights devotional service by his personal example. This is the best way to preach. If somebody preaches and gives his personal realization, now you will see in many cases, even Shukdev Goswami, before telling about Bhagavatam, Shukdev Goswami says how it changed my life. Similarly, Narada highlighting devotional service by his personal example. Very interesting. First he gives a whole life story of how pure devotional service, principles of pure devotional service, if highlighted, pushed against all odds, without compromising, without any enjoying spirit, it can be so transforming. How Narada's life was transformed. And after that, he says, last point. So this is how the whole chapter is covered. Now these qualities were highlighted in text 23 to 31 and 39. In these are the verses personal life was mentioned of Narad Muni. And then Narada, so we saw how he found out the mistake, how he mentioned about two kinds of literatures. Then the third thing is how he mentioned about the glories of devotional service, then glories of Vyasadev or qualifications of Vyasadev, then Narada's personal life, again glorified devotional service, and Narada instructs Vyasadev for the right course of action, right course of action. What is the right course of action at this point of time? What should he do now? After understanding all this, how should he act for the benefit of the common masses? And this is covered in text 16 and text 40. And also in text 32 to 38. In fact, one can say that text 16 and 32 to 40 are talking about the right course of action. We will discuss how it's happening. Hare Krishna.